adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197. Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800. Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started. Attention all wing fans! Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 89-cent boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.29 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today at 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Austin. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! You're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Oerman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Presented by NEBCO. This is On the Block with Strick and Austin.
Elliot's laughing too hard to bring us into the show over there, but we made it. Welcome into On the Block, brought to you by the great people over at NEBCO. Check them out at nebcoinc.com. They've been doing great things in Nebraska since 1908. They're a fourth-gen family-owned and operated business with over 1,200 employees and 26 companies throughout Nebraska. Guys, y'all have been complaining about Husker basketball all week, all weekend, and now all week. And I heard multiple comments of, nope, I'm done. When does Husker baseball start? You know what? You inspired us. Not just me, but with Stricky gone, I got Nick Sehnert sitting here to my right, and this is going to be a baseball show. It's going to be a baseball show. It has been too long since we have had a good one of these. We'll dive into Husker baseball here in hour number one. We will dive into Major League Baseball, some of the big issues facing that sport in hour number two. But first of all, Nick, welcome back to On the Block for the second time in like a week.
I know. It's great to be back. I appreciate the invite. Ellie, thank you for the invite. As always, it's great to have you to the right running the board. Austin, great to have you to the left. It's haircut day. That's been taken care of. Haircut day is best day. I just want to remind everybody that I'm excited for what's to come. Even though it is a heavy baseball show, excited for the game tonight.
Yes, big one for Nebraska against USC. Nebraska on a 4-game losing streak for the first time since mid to late January of 22 and 23. Get St. Thomas his return game to the state of Nebraska tonight. He'll start for USC, and we'll see if Nebraska men's basketball can get off the schneid. Not in a bad position, still on the outside of the bubble looking in, according to most people. Last 4 in, first 4 out sort of range. Not that a win tonight at home, Nick, does a whole lot for the resume, but you just got to get off the losing streak and start building some confidence again, really.
Well, you got a very important stretch coming up, right? Like, if we want to segment the rest of the season and look at, like, Jay and I and you, we in our post games for football season, we always talked like chapters of the season, right? Yeah. Now we can do that with Husker basketball too. The last four can be its own chapter, right? That, man, it would have been real nice. Like, you started that 4-game chapter, if you will, as an 8 seed. Like, you were projected firmly in the field. And now in less than a couple of weeks, you are not firmly, but you are out of the field as it stands right now if the season were to end today. So now it's look at these next couple of games that are awaiting you. And it's in some order. I believe it's this order. It's obviously USC tonight. Then it's
at Wisconsin,
Illinois at home, at Oregon.
2-game West Coast road swing.
That's right.
Oregon, and then at Washington late on Wednesday.
So you can segment it to the next 5 games that are facing Nebraska men's basketball. It's important. Oregon's a top 20 team. Illinois is a top 25 team that pushed Michigan State on the road to the ropes. Like, this is an important stretch for Nebraska basketball because they're going to have to steal a couple of those road games that we talked about.
The road games that Wisconsin has been better than I thought they were going to be. I don't think there's a way to write Nebraska off of that. Oregon has some impressive wins. The underlying numbers don't love them necessarily. I'm not sure how much juice there is between Fred Hoiberg and Dana Altman. I'm sure there's more between Husker fans and him as well. Washington, the Wilhelm Breidenbach revenge game will be interesting. And then it's a big home stretch after that. Ohio State comes to Lincoln and Maryland comes to Lincoln. Those are 2 teams in a pretty similar position to Nebraska. So we'll see 8:00 tip-off tonight. I will be there. Nick will be there as well.
That's right. And like, so Old-Dad34 makes a point on the text line that CBS has Nebraska in the tourney. I think Lenardi has them out. So it depends on what site you look at. Certainly, this is where it unfortunately hurts Nebraska because they're Nebraska. Because if they are where they are right now, the national respect isn't going to be in their favor. And so, while, they're a fringe team if the season were to end today. And thankfully for Nebraska, it doesn't. So there's opportunities ahead. But they're a fringe team right now, and that should bring nervousness into the minds of Husker fans, or at least anxiousness, because in terms of national respect, in terms of the numbers with non-con schedules, it does not favor Nebraska over other potential teams that are on the bubble.
And Nebraska is a team too that needs maybe a little bit more of that eye test to be in the conversation. Last year they had a little bit more of that with Casey, with Rank, the win over Purdue. This year, even if Nebraska's numbers aren't incredibly different in the big picture, they're kind of lacking some of those eye test sort of things, which is where, the difference between going, it's going to be nothing short of a miracle if Nebraska gets to above 500 in Big Ten play. But that's where, if you win a game like Iowa to take you from 10-10 in conference to 11-9, or you beat Rutgers at home to take you from 11-9 to 12-8. There's those little things when people first take a glance at the resume go a lot further for Nebraska than it does even say like a San Diego State or a St. Mary's, these kind of perennial tournament teams.
I absolutely agree. I would ask you this to turn it on to USC real quick. Are you surprised Eric Musselman is they're 11-7, so I don't want to make it sound like they're struggling. But while he didn't get fired from Arkansas, it was kind of the writing on the wall that, hey, they wanted Calipari, figure out a way to get him another job. Musselman, that is, figure out a way to get him a job somewhere else. USC, that was an intriguing hire at the time. Are you surprised, whether good or bad, that it's going the way that it is?
Not necessarily. Muss is a darn good coach. What he did for Arkansas basketball was pretty huge. Kind of resurrecting that program and getting to the Elite Eight. They were really competitive. They were a pain in the butt in the SEC. I'm a little surprised they haven't been a little better in conference plays. This is an old team, but I think it's still a team and a program trying to find its identity. It didn't really have an identity with Andy Enfield. It was just a good, solid basketball team. I think the same thing here. They have 4 guys averaging double figures, a lot of guys playing, in that 17 to 24-ish minutes per game range. There's talent on the team, but there's not necessarily clearly defined roles. And that to me is part of the reason. Desmond Claude is a guy I've been watching for a while, back to his career at Xavier. Wesley Yates as a freshman has come on and been a little bit of a spark for them. And then it's just a whole bunch of, they needed to fill out the roster. I think this is a pretty typical year one roster for a coach like Eric Musselman, who did get some talented names in the door, but is not necessarily gelling to the maximum, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the Big Ten,
and 5 guys in double figures, I should say.
The Big Ten is just weird overall. I mean, you look at we have a group chat with one of our mutual friends, Jacob Bigelow, that we keep tabs on it pretty closely, to where you're kind of thrown off by the Big Ten at times, because you look at some of the finishes from last night, just on a random, Tuesday evening. Wisconsin goes to UCLA and UCLA wins. And I think that's now 2 or 3 in a row for UCLA.
Ohio State goes on the road, is down 16 at Purdue.
Yes.
And comes back to win.
Purdue. And Oregon wins comfortably at home against Washington. But like tonight's a night where I believe Indiana goes, there's 2 Big Ten games. Indiana goes to Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one where it's like, okay, Indiana, we kind of wrote them off when they were, after they came to Lincoln and did not look very impressive. But they're 14-5,
5-3 in the Big Ten,
5-3 in the Big Ten. But there would be no surprise if Northwestern knocks them off.
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern's not sexy by any means, and so, but ultimately that's just kind of how the Big Ten is. So that's where it goes back to, without trying to live too much in the past. If you're Nebraska, it's really frustrating that they couldn't have gone at least 2-2 in this last 4-game stretch, but instead you go 0-4. You can make an argument to where Nebraska, there was a path, or frankly, they should have went 3-1. It's a lot easier to cover up a disgusting performance against Purdue on the road if you go either 3-1 or you're 2-2. It's a little bit better to in the eyes of the national media, in the eyes of the teams that, make the NCAA tournament, it's easier to kind of say, okay, yeah, they had a bad loss to Purdue in a blowout fashion, but it was wedged in between, a home win against Rutgers, a road win against Maryland, and a road win against Iowa.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where you don't want to look back at that Iowa game as the turning point for the season.
Yeah.
And for a veteran group like Nebraska has, you wouldn't think letting that one slip away would be a massive turning point like it's shaping up to be right now. But to your point, I mean, Nebraska was sitting at 2-1 in the conference, losing 4 in a row. If you finish off Iowa on the road with 15-point lead, you finish off Rutgers, guess what? You pretty much just held serve. Because you went 1-3 on the road, or 1-2 on the road in your 3 games. You won your 1 home game in that stretch. You're fine. I mean, you did at least what was expected of you, if not even a little bit more.
Yeah, and the conversations all season long was that, hey, we need to, Nebraska needs to get a couple on the road. And in this stretch, when you're getting ready for a West Coast trip, looking pretty closely ahead, when you're getting ready for a West Coast trip, and you have, one of those is featuring a 9:30 p.m. Central Time tip-off against Washington. Like, there's ones that, say, okay, this might be a little more in Nebraska's favor than the other ones. Iowa's probably one of those, right? And stuff. Like, especially now looking back, the loss against Michigan State doesn't look so bad.
No.
Which I think it's, Michigan State's a really good basketball team right now. I think
I still don't understand that.
They're up to 8th in the country, but ultimately that loss doesn't hurt Nebraska. So if Nebraska's 2 Big Ten losses, or 2 of their 3 Big Ten losses, are number 1 quad 1 losses, and number 2 to teams that are ranked in the top 10, you can make that work. You can cover that up and say, okay, look, Nebraska's beating the teams they're supposed to beat, which we've said all along. That's all Nebraska needs to do. It's when you start losing to teams that are, you either outmatch or you're better than, or you lose at home. That's what's alarming. And the fact that Nebraska's done that 4 games in a row with a veteran squad is what I think is sounding alarm bells even more than if they just lost 4.
Do you get Husker football vibes? Because I kind of do. You're not playing poorly enough to get blown out, by teams in your level. But you're kind of feels like you're sinking to their level, where Nebraska has advantages that it's not using in some of these games. And it's just 1 or 2 little things go differently that are completely within Nebraska's control, and it's a different outcome.
Let me ask you this. Is it that, or is it more so maybe we don't know what Nebraska's great at?
Well, Nebraska's not great at anything. They've proven that.
And that's where it's like, because, okay, so can you, there was a specific piece of what you just said that I wanted to play off of. Can you repeat what you just said?
Well,
about stooping down to people's
right.
levels.
I mean, you're playing at the same level as your opponents, right? Where Nebraska has
Yes.
advantages that it's maybe not utilizing.
So I would ask you then this question. Thank you. I needed to jog my memory. What are those advantages?
Well, some of it goes matchup by matchup, right? Nebraska isn't an Iowa with an offensive scheme, isn't an Illinois with an offensive scheme, isn't a Purdue with a big man or anything like that. Nebraska's had different advantages in different games, right? Bryce Williams was an advantage against Iowa. They didn't have anyone that could stop him or stay in front of him. And yes, he led Nebraska in scoring, but Bryce Williams had to work a lot harder for his shots than, say, Sanford and Dix did. Against Rutgers, that is not a talented front court. That was not a deep front court. Nebraska didn't take advantage in the post with that. Against UCLA, even, they did a little bit, but not to that same degree. So there's always going to be something that Nebraska can take advantage of against teams that are on its level. I would say even against Maryland, right? The bigs didn't make a huge impact. Even though I think the bigs are two of Maryland's three best players, I didn't think Maryland had anyone that could consistently stick with Bryce Williams. Juwan Gary finishing at the rim would have been helpful. And even if, Wooster been able to make Jacoby Gillespie work a little bit more on defense, take him into the post, there are ways for Nebraska to attack these opponents, but it looks a lot harder for Nebraska to get to its advantages consistently than it does for its opponents.
Is it fair to say that, because this is where I would have landed, is it fair to say that I would have been, if you would have told me, hey, in the matchups between that included Rutgers and Maryland, Andrew Morgan's going to have 17 points against one of those teams, I would have leaned towards Rutgers.
I would have.
Like, I feel like Braxton Mia had his probably best game of the year against Rutgers, most complete game in terms of impacting the game on the glass, impacting the game in the scoring column a little bit, right? Where what was it against? He played 17 minutes, was 3 for 3 from the field, had 6 rebounds and 2 assists and 1 block. Only committed 1 foul as well. So I would say from a complete standpoint, had his best complete game of the year. But even to that, like, that is the best game that he's had. So in games where the opponent's front court, which in the Big Ten maybe there's not going to be many of them, but where the front court, Nebraska actually has an advantage, they didn't utilize it enough. Juwan Gary was fine against Rutgers, right? He led the team, or was second in the team in total points with 20, but 6 of 13 shooting. He shot 2 of 6 from 3. That's the game where it's like Juwan could firmly be attacking the rim and have a significant advantage, but ultimately they were still settling for some difficult shots against a backcourt that features 2 lottery NBA picks.
Yeah. And that's where I think one of Nebraska's advantages that it hasn't gone after it a lot, because it hasn't been a focus for this program, is offensive rebounding. This team is struggling to execute in the half court. And I know they like their pieces, but clearly it's not working to the degree that they want it to. And it's not an aggressive attacking defense that's going to force a lot of turnovers and runouts. So I think to get Juwan Gary going, you want every game for him the rest of the season to look like Kansas State did last year. I think if you're going to start, 2 big guys and Juwan Gary, you send your starting backcourt back to play transition defense, and you crash those 3 guys. Whether it's Gary, Boychenjel, and Mia that's been the starting lineup, whether Andrew Morgan is in there. I think even like Sam Hoiberg is a guy you can have crash the glass and drop someone else back. But Nebraska hasn't made that a huge focus. So they're not creating extra possessions, and they're not that efficient with the few possessions that they get. That could be an identity. Nebraska's just never gone to that, never ever leaned into that. And Cubsker, appreciate your couple texts on the text line here, 402-464-5685. He says, we haven't seen an identity out of Nebraska since the last year of Miles. We saw it last year. And the identity was not Keisei Tominaga, right? That is not a guy that you can build an identity around, because it's hard to find shot makers and creators like him. The identity for Nebraska was Rink Mast. Finding a stretchy big man that can facilitate from the top of the key and help be a pressure release, whether it's in the full court or the half court. Missing Rink Mast is something that I know we talked about, but we're seeing just how important he was for what Nebraska wanted to accomplish. I liked the Andrew Morgan pickup as kind of a middle ground between Mast and Alec, but you see when Morgan is asked to be Rink Mast, that's not who he is. Mast was a better floor spacer, a little bit better shooter from long range, more willing at least as well. Maybe Morgan's a better post scorer. It's pretty close. But Rink Mast, having that versatile big man, is the identity that Nebraska was trying to build around, right? Rink Master, the Robbie Avila type that went from Indiana State to St. Louis with Josh Schertz, guys like that. That was Nebraska's advantage and identity last year. That's part of how they beat Purdue, right? By bringing Edey all the way out because they had to come out that far to guard Rink Mast. He cooked him from 3, took him off the bounce a couple times as well. Missing Rink Mast, I mean, if he's in the lineup, then there's a better, more defined role for Braxton Meah. There's a better, more defined role for Andrew Morgan. You don't have to expect nearly as much from Berke Boyuktanjel. Old Dad 34 says the identity for the team needs to be inside out. For me, why shoot threes when 2 is closer? That's the thing. Nebraska isn't taking a lot of threes. If you look at the volume, the 3-point rate is significantly down from last year because they don't have a lot of shooters, which is another issue of roster construction and what Rink Mast brought to the table. But we saw against Maryland, 3 or 4 guys on one side of the court, everyone cut. There's no flow. There's no continuity consistently in that offense. So yeah, it's one thing to say, just shoot more 2s. But if you're going to shoot 2s instead of 3s, it's got to look like A&M did last year against Nebraska, right? Yeah, A&M shot pretty well. But A&M was the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country last year. They didn't shoot a lot of 3s and they didn't shoot them well. But if you're not going to be efficient and you're not going to win the math from 3, you have to have an overwhelming advantage from 2 to give yourself a chance just purely mathematically.
Okay, a couple things that I want to hit on here. And look at us, we're going off topic.
We'll have Evan Bland here pretty soon, so we got to make it a little quick.
Yeah, naturally. But if I were to ask you who were the top 2 rebounders overall in Nebraska's squad, who would you say they are?
By rebounds grabbed so far this year?
Total rebounds, yep.
Let's see. I would probably say Boyuktanjel.
Okay, he's first. Do you have any guesses on how many total rebounds he's gotten?
He's probably averaging 5 a game.
He has 101 rebounds on the season.
6 a game?
72 defensive, 29 offensive.
They've played 17 games?
They've played 18
games, so that's 5.5.
Yeah,
a game.
Which I mean, from him, who's
from a 4-man,
he's dealt with foul trouble. He's kind of been asked to do a lot. I think maybe.
And then is it Juwan or Andrew Morgan next?
It is Andrew. Juwan and Andrew Morgan are tied at 82. If I were to ask you who's second on the team in defensive rebounds,
Bryce,
Berke, Raleigh
okay.
is second on the team in defensive rebounds with 61. You mentioned the offensive rebound piece. Nebraska as a team has grabbed 173 offensive rebounds this season.
9 a game.
To put that into perspective, Maryland has over 220 offensive rebounds on the season.
And only 8 of them against Nebraska.
And only 8 of them against Nebraska. So, I look at the guys that are supposed to be active down low in the front court. And I understand that minutes per game play a factor into this. Braxton Meah, we get so infatuated with the size, or we talk so much about his size. He's only played 259 minutes this season of game time, which is next to nothing. I can go down the list. Bryce Williams has played 559. Braxton Meah is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th on the team in minutes per game. And that is astonishing out of your starting center.
Yeah.
To truly think about
which,
that.
To his credit, per 100 possessions, he is 3rd among high minute guys.
You're right.
In rebounding.
You're right.
Per minute.
Yes.
Per 100 possessions, I should say.
So I say all that, though, and to build off of what you're saying, and Old Dad says exactly like the A&M game, to build off of Old Dad's 34's point real quick before we go to break, is Nebraska's, and this is a question that I don't know the answer to, is Nebraska's finishing ability around the rim as a team good enough?
No.
And I don't think it is.
No.
Bryce Williams, he can get to the line. He's also deadly from mid-range. So I don't have an issue with that. Juwan, certainly not. Andrew Morgan is fine. I think he's good around the rim. Berke is not. Braxton Meah is not. The guys that are supposed to be active down low, it's not as easy as just saying, hey, put up a 2 around the rim, because I don't think Nebraska's finishing ability is anywhere close to good enough to where we can say that's the problem, or that is what needs to happen.
And that's an extra, 5 made shots per game. That's an extra 10 points per game that go a long way for a team that struggles to score.
Free throws from your big men.
Man, all of that is completely fair. We got to go to break. We're going to talk some Husker baseball, and then we'll talk some Major League Baseball as we move on. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, our guest next.
Follow Austin, Strick, and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Oerman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
An hour ago, you didn't need a plumber. Now you're in a panic. When life throws you a surprise with a clogged drain, plugged or leaky toilet, broken pipe, leaky faucet or water heater, or a bathroom or kitchen plumbing upgrade, whatever. Just call Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Keep that number handy, 467-1111. Or go to BryantLincoln.com. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Hey volleybalfans, this is Laura Dijkema, national player of the Netherlands and now the setter on Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering for us in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action. Go Big Green!
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into On the Block. It's 2:30 on a Wednesday, which means we're headed to our VIP line brought to you by Aloe Fiber, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with local heart. We go to that VIP line. We welcome in Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Evan, I don't know if hell was frozen over or what's going on, but I think this is finally the year for a northern school to win a championship. There's more snow in the southeastern part of the country than everywhere else. Advantage northern schools.
You know, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about, like, what if the snowstorms had hit like a month from now when all these southern schools are supposed to be hosting and like boosting up their early season RPIs. So it'll be interesting to see what that thing's like here in a few weeks.
It's probably not going to mean anything. It was just kind of funny to consider the possibility. Well, Evan, we have you on to talk Husker baseball just over 3 weeks away from first pitch for the Huskers. Before we get into the team, the lineup, the rotation, the bullpen, all that good stuff, big picture for the program, they just get Will Bolt a 5-year contract extension over the offseason through 2029. when you look at the way Nebraska is trending over the last few years, what's kind of the overall health of the program? How do you view it?
I mean, I think they're in really good shape. You think about Bolt's tenure at Nebraska, it never really had a first year with the COVID shutdown, and then they have the 21 season where in a normal year they probably would have hosted a regional, but they play the league only schedule, and they have that memorable regional at Arkansas, but then they can't follow it up in 22. They missed the Big Ten tournament entirely, and then they kind of try the stars and scrubs method a little bit in 23, and that didn't necessarily get them where they wanted to go. And I think what we've seen the program do, certainly in the last few years, is go in maybe deeper on depth as opposed to being so top heavy. I think that's like when I think about Nebraska teams 7, 8, 9 years ago, like you never really knew how maybe the bottom third of the lineup would look or what the midweek would look like. And I just think where this team is now, they feel pretty good going 11 or 12 deep. You have defensive versatility. And then, if the pitching sort of plays out the way that it looks like it could, you're going to have starting options, not just on the weekend, but also for some of those Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I think that all plays into it. I think the current climate of college athletics has helped Nebraska baseball. When you talk about being competitive in the NIL space, this is a program that continues to draw attendance-wise among the top 15 nationally. Usually you're talking about most of the SEC and like Southern Miss, and then it's Nebraska. So there's a lot that it has going for it. It's ambitious still about maybe adding some developmental facilities around Haymarket Park or somewhere that they can take advantage of. But I think it's in a good place. The enthusiasm is high. The coaching staff's in place, and it feels like they have the experience and talent to have a pretty fun season this year.
Hey, Evan, it's Nick. I was curious, and I was excited that we were going to get to talk to you today because kind of building off of one thing you just said, like Will Bolt mentioned it. I think he told, I can't remember who he was talking to in the fall, that he mentioned like this is one of the first years that they have more returners than newcomers, essentially. And I think Nebraska, if my numbers are correct, like 26 returners officially. Now you do have to move on from a 4th and a 7th round draft pick and Josh Caron and Brett Sears respectively. But when we compare it, and maybe this is not right to do, when you compare it to the conversation that we had post 2021, where you're coming off of the regional berth against Arkansas, and there's so much excitement for 2022, it feels like there's more stability going into 2025. I don't know. Am I just off on that one, or do you kind of feel the same way?
No, I think that's true. I mean, I think that 21 team, as special as it was, like it had to move on from sort of the heart and soul of what that team was. When you're talking about the Jackson Hallmarks and the Spencer Schwellenbachs and on down the list, like there were just a number of core guys that all moved on. And I think the assumption at that time, and, I think I probably fell into the trap a little bit too, was that the culture was set and it would pass to the next group. And some of those freshmen were going to be ready to assume, kind of that role. And it just didn't necessarily play out that way. And I think the depth piece also plays into that there where, they did have a handful of guys who were really talented back from that 21 team, but there were also so many holes to fill. And you contrast that with this team right now, again, if they wanted to roll out the same lineup that they had in the regional last year, minus Josh Caron at catcher, they could do that. And so you could either go with the group that got you there, or you could turn to Cale Frost, who you get out of the transfer portal, Summit League Player of the Year from South Dakota State, or Max Butenbach, who just tore up the Northwoods League over the summer as a high-end, high-upside corner outfielder, and kind of down the line. Like they have these players that are pushing these established veterans offensively. And then I think on the mound, you lose Brett Sears, your Big Ten pitcher of the year, but you bring back Mason McConaughey, who's one of what I would say is maybe 3 or 4 established Big Ten aces in the entire league. And some of the other players that they have, Will Walsh has taken a big step in the offseason. You get Jackson Brockett back. How does he build on his junior season breakout? And then you have a bunch of really interesting pieces that could sort of be starters or midweek guys or swing guys like Drew Christo or Jalen Worthley or Tucker Timmerman. And I'm failing to mention Tyner Horn, who's maybe got the most upside of all of them as a weekend starter potentially this year based on what he did in the summer and the fall and what his recruiting pedigree was. So I just think all that sort of plays into this. And then you look at, you kind of add that into the context of the Big Ten. I mean, I'm doing some research on these teams right now, and it seems like just about every team in the league has huge question marks at pitching, and nobody can get enough of it. And you look at what Rob Childress is doing back in that role as pitching coach, the veterans Nebraska has back. It puts them in a really favorable spot, I think, this year. That, to me, is a lot different from what that 21 into 22 season was.
When you look at that starting rotation, specifically the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday guys, McConaughey most likely to get the nod as the Friday guy, like you just said. What do you think sets up best for Nebraska in terms of the weekend rotation and how that plays into the rest of the bullpen in midweek? Like, what's your top three guys after McConaughey, I guess, to give you those Saturday, Sunday starts the bulk of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Horn. I think he's probably the guy they'd love to have as the Saturday guy. I mean, he came in as a freshman last year and had some flashes, but ultimately it was his first year in college ball and he got hit around a little bit. He had a great summer, a really impressive fall. So I think he's the guy that I'd look at to get a chance right out of the gate here in a few weeks. Will Walsh used to be a two-way guy. He's going to focus now on pitching. His velocity's up. It'll be interesting to see what he does as sort of a fifth-year guy who's been around the block a few times. He's pitched in some huge games for Nebraska in the last couple of years. So how does that build up? I think Jackson Brockett's in that conversation as a guy who was kind of on the brink a year ago from even not being on the team. And he has the memorable no-hitter, of course, against Kansas State and became a big part of what they're doing. I think you probably start there. They have other guys. It's my understanding, like Christo and Worthley and Timmerman, who have started. Maybe they started over the summer or they did in the fall, who just kind of prefer to pitch more often. Like they kind of like to go out there every day with the possibility that this could be their day or that they could come in a big spot and help their team. So I'd look at those guys too. I think if you want a freshman name that's kind of interesting, Price Bender is a kid who, impressed in the fall. Be curious to see what his role is. And then TJ Coates is a junior college transfer who also looked pretty good, that you would think would have a role at some point. So like everyone remembers the midweek struggles that Nebraska's had. I think the best sign that you can have that the pitching is in a place where they want it to be is if you can find one or two of those guys that I just mentioned being sort of your guy on Tuesday or Wednesday, and just know that they're going to give you 5 good innings. It's going to relieve the lineup from needing to score a ton of runs, and we'll see how that shakes out. But I think all that combined with, again, working with Rob Childress back in his second year as a pitching coach makes it a really interesting staff to see just how much they can improve from last year.
We're with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald on the Allo VIP line. And switching over to the offensive side, I don't want listeners to get confused that with us saying that there's so many, returners and there's a lot of experience coming back, that means positions are necessarily locked down. Because I look at what is to come around this, the diamond, and there's a couple of intriguing spots where I think there's some positions that have some guys behind the scenes that could make some moves. Like I look at the center field position, like can a guy like Robbie Bolin, who from Barton Community College, can he come in and maybe fight for, against Riley Silva for that spot? Or, how does the catching situations, with Cymbalista and Helixo, how can that one sort out? When you look around the field or in the lineup specifically, what are some positions that you feel like, okay, you know what, we could see some new faces, especially earlier in the season where maybe they're trying to figure out lineups and certain, packages to put together?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. I think corner outfield is interesting. With what Riley Silva's done, to me, it's hard to move him out of where he's been in center and atop the lineup. I mean, he's a fast, high on base guy. Like I think he's going to be a fixture. But what do you do at some of these corner spots? I mean, you've played Case Sanderson there, who's really trending in a positive direction. He's played outfield. Gabe Swanson, who ended the season on an epic heater last year. Is he back sort of into his 2023 form over the course of a full season? Yeah, I mentioned Cale Frost. How does he factor in? Max Butenbach has just had an outstanding summer and fall. Like it'll be fascinating to see where he comes in. Potentially Will Jeske was somebody who's been in that mix as well. You mentioned Robbie Bolin. So like, how do you mix and match those guys in the outfield? I think you have the luxury of playing the hot bat, quite honestly. Like if you're hitting, you're in. And if you're not, like you're going to have to work your way back. I think second base is one of the more interesting ones. You've got Caden Brumbaugh and Rhett Stokes, who both have had their moments at Nebraska. I think that what works well for them is they're both pretty versatile positionally. I mean, Rhett Stokes can play on the left side of the infield as well. Brumbaugh's played outfield before and could do that if needed. And then probably first base would be the other one where you have, Case Sanderson played some first. You got Tyler Stone back. He was more of a platoon guy last year. So is this a situation where he's able to take that thing over full time and be one of the run producers that, Nebraska's offense last year had a ton of table setters and speed guys, but not a ton of run producers. Can he sort of take that next step as a senior and be one of those guys? I think those are the spots to me that are a little bit fluid, like in a good way, where you do have some options. And Nebraska is not going to be a team that's going to hit 100 home runs this year, I don't think, but it's going to be very similar to last year where you're talking about high on base, pressuring defenses, hit and run, speed. And that's really the kind of attack that tends to travel pretty well in the Big Ten and the elements and all that. So I think they feel pretty good about their style. Now it's just a matter of hammering out roles and seeing who's got the hot bats here in February and March.
Speaking of elements, it is officially snowing in Lincoln, so I brought that on us with the talk of the snow in SEC country. But Evan, as you look at this Nebraska lineup and all the different combinations and options you could throw out there, who's the bellwether, the X factor you think for the lineup that will tell you what Nebraska's floor or ceiling is offensively?
Well, again, I think that the depth piece to me is the thing that always makes the difference. Like you see it in pitching and with an offense where like, if you're in a regional and you're facing a team where like any spot in the order can hurt you, like that's when you're a team that's in contention for a deep postseason run. And so like, will Nebraska get production from the bottom third of its order? When it's not had good teams, those have been, pretty easy outs oftentimes. When they've had better teams, those are the spots that hurt. So like a lot of these names that we're mentioning, can they go out, force the issue for Will Bolton, force them to have to make some tough decisions, or is it going to fall back on the guys who've been there before and you kind of weather the ups and downs with those guys. So I guess what I would say is kind of like I was saying earlier, this is a team that's really good with the speed and the table setting, but who can sort of clear the table. And I think that's what was so important a year ago about what Gabe Swanson and Josh Caron did, was like they were the guys who came through in the clutch and were able to get those RBIs. So who are the run producers now? 2 years ago it was Max Anderson and Bryce Matthews. Is that Gabe Swanson now over a full season? We've seen him do it before. Is that Cale Frost after what he did at South Dakota State last year? Is that Tyler Stone, who was one of the bigger power bats that Nebraska's had? Like who's that guy? When the pond is full of ducks, it's going to clear that thing off. And I think if Nebraska can get a guy or two to emerge consistently, it's going to be a huge step forward toward what they want to do this season.
Evan, before we let you go, I guess when we talk so much throughout the course of the season about the schedule and about RPI, and Nebraska finished top 30 RPI last year, and a big part of that is how they started the season. They started the season really strong with, a 6 total wins that was against College of Charleston. And then, Grand Canyon was mixed in there as well. I guess if this could kind of be a big picture question in this new year of new schools coming into the Big Ten Conference. We get asked questions, and I know you do too, about what this means for the conference. What does this mean for the national respect of the conference? Nebraska will certainly have its fair share of challenges early on, right? They're going to go to Scottsdale the first week of the season. They go to Frisco a couple of weeks later, and they'll play teams like Vanderbilt and LSU going forward. But how much respect can they earn with Big Ten wins this year now that teams like Oregon or UCLA are now a part of the conference, and they're going to get opportunities later in the season rather than you feel like you have to load up on all these wins earlier in the non-con slate?
Yeah, I think specific to Nebraska, I don't know, honestly, how much of a difference it's going to make. Like, there's kind of this assumption that UCLA and USC are kind of the teams that they used to be. And to be honest, like, you look at what they've done in recent years, they've struggled. I mean, neither team really came close to the postseason last year. USC's got more national titles than any team in the country, but they haven't really been a factor much in the 21st century. I mean, UCLA was a top national seed, a decade ago or so, and they've struggled. They didn't have much of a power lineup last year. Their pitching has struggled. So I think it'll help in a broader sense. I think it'll help the league, which has tended as a 13-team league to be like maybe the sixth best team in terms of, or sixth best league in terms of RPI nationally. Maybe that'll bump them up a little bit to, fourth or something like that. So I do think that part does help. I mean, Washington has struggled. They're resetting entirely with a new coach. So to me, like, it's really about Oregon coming in. And we talk about travel. Well, this is something I'm interested in, guys. Like, we talk about travel in football and in basketball and sort of the toll that takes. But in those sports, you get in and out of a venue in 24 hours if you want to. On the baseball side, you're somewhere, you might be 3 time zones away for 4 days and having to travel. And so, like, the travel, I think Oregon's one of the best teams in the league, but what is the travel impact on that squad in particular? So, like, I'm not of the belief that these new West Coast additions are automatically going to bolster the Big Ten. I do think it'll increase its national profile. People will pay a little bit more attention to it, but I absolutely think, teams like Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana have just as much chance of winning this thing as some of these West Coast newcomers who have maybe more of a history in the sport.
One of the West Coast teams on Nebraska's schedule is Oregon State, right? Not, it kind of flown out there as an independent trying to do its own thing. I have some talks with the West Coast Conference involved as well. Was there ever a thought from the Big Ten of trying to get Oregon State on board? Do you think that's a big enough baseball brand that wouldn't have wanted to debase itself with Midwestern baseball and all the travel accommodations and issues it could have faced?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure Oregon wants to do what it's doing in baseball, but it has no choice because of all these decisions being made on the football side. Of course, that being said, I'm sure Oregon State wishes it were in a more stable situation than it is. And this is one of those weird sort of fallouts that come from all the realignment that's been based out of football. Is you've got this national brand like Oregon State that's been a regular in Omaha over the last 20 years or so, having to play an independent schedule. And you got to credit the Beavers for being pretty aggressive, I think, in their scheduling. I mean, they're going to a lot of places, and they're, they were able to fill in for a lot of non-conference weekends for other squads. And so you got to figure they're still going to be among the favorites here this year. It's been a while since Nebraska's had a team come into Haymarket Park with this kind of prestige that Oregon State's had over the last few years. So I don't know. You kind of hope that they figure it out here in the next year. We'll see what happens with the Mountain West teams kind of refilling the Pac-12 into something new. Maybe something comes out of that. But it just seems to me that program's established enough and strong enough that, maybe sort of like Notre Dame football, it can put together an independent schedule and maybe not miss too much of a beat just because of how good it's been.
Fair enough. That's Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, our guest here during On the Block. Find him on Twitter at Evan Bland, OWH, his work at omaha.com. Evan, 3 weeks away. We'll keep talking some Husker baseball with you on Wednesdays as long as you're down. Thanks as always for your time.
Hey, thanks for making this January day feel a little warmer.
Baseball will do that. It warms your soul. That's Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, our guest with us again on our VIP line brought to you by Aloe Fiber. That's where they understand the importance of exceptional service with local heart. Quick break. We'll wrap up Hour 1 with a look at Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame class and get into Major League Baseball in Hour 2.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road.
An hour ago, you didn't need a plumber. Now you're in a panic. When life throws you a surprise with a clogged drain, plugged or leaky toilet, broken pipe, leaky faucet or water heater, or a bathroom or kitchen plumbing upgrade, whatever. Just call Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Keep that number handy, 467-1111, or go to BryantLincoln.com. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Ever stare at the Hog Wild menu and feel like you just can't make up your mind because it all looks so good? Well, when I want a little bit of everything, I get a little bit of everything on Hog Wild Smokestack Sandwich. On a butter-toasted bun, we pile on our hickory smoked beef brisket and juicy hot links. The hard part is choosing between fresh curly fries, classic baked beans, or coleslaw on the side. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Wrapping up hour one of On the Block, getting you set for hour two when we get into Major League Baseball. We got some Hall of Fame announcements yesterday. Austin Oerman, Nick Sehnert, Ellie with you here during On the Block as well. Ichiro Suzuki, first Japanese-born player in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, 1 vote short of unanimity. You get CC Sabathia, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and then Billy Wagner, his final year of eligibility. Those are the three modern-era players that make it in. Nick, your reaction to that three-man modern-era class?
I like it. I thought the reaction from Billy Wagner when he realized, got the call that he was going to be in was really, really neat. I don't know. It's probably a good thing that they don't release who they vote for or who votes for who and who doesn't, because I don't know. People get hands, or up in arms about the unanimous selection and stuff. And obviously, what is it? Mariano Rivera is the only one to be ever unanimous. So I don't know. Derek Jeter and Ichiro, two players that fall one vote shy of being, a unanimous Hall of Fame selection. They're in, which is important, right? They're in. And so ultimately that's great. I saw just a couple minutes ago, the Mariners are going to honor Ichiro on August 9th for that. So that's really cool. But I like it, right? Like now we're getting to a point, Austin too, and maybe this is just a sign of us getting older. Like it's guys going into the hall that we grew up watching.
Yes.
And it's pretty cool. Like I'm thoroughly enjoying watching and seeing like Ichiro and yeah, sure, Mariano Rivera, but then like Derek Jeter and these guys that are down the road here in the next like 5 years are really going to start to hit home.
Oh, this is our childhood.
Oh, absolutely.
These are the first dudes I remember watching on TV, the All-Star games, pulling their baseball cards, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Ichiro, I mean, no doubt slam dunk first ballot guy for me. Billy Wagner is a guy I came around to. I mean, he's the first left-handed reliever in the Hall of Fame, which is kind of crazy to think about. Some of the best strikeout per nine numbers ever. I'm not surprised CC Sabathia got in.
Yeah.
I am a little surprised it was first ballot. CC was good. He had some absolute moments of dominance. I mean, unfortunately for you, that 2008 run with Milwaukee is something that's going to live in baseball history, I mean, forever. He's got the counting stats. He's got the numbers. And, of course, he's got the story, right? His struggles with addiction. He's become a great spokesman in his time off the field. I just thought enough voters would have looked at the numbers and said, he's good. I don't know if I can get him there yet.
Yeah.
And Andy Pettitte got a big boost, but their numbers are eerily similar. They just got there very different ways. I'm a little bummed Carlos Beltran didn't get in. I think he's trending toward induction next year. That's a guy that I think, belongs in there.
He got like a 13% boost this year. I was reading.
And Andrew Jones is the other one.
Yes. Me. Yeah. So I think when you look at 2026, okay, who is potential, who's the potential? I think those guys you mentioned, Carlos Beltran, Andy Pettitte, Andrew Jones. I'm wondering how long it will take for Felix Hernandez. Because I think this is his first year on the ballot. I think he was like 20%. I would imagine that it'll probably be like year 3 for him. Like I see him being or do you see him potentially?
It's not next year. No, I think Felix is one of those guys that has the Andrew Jones case, except as a pitcher. Because when Andrew Jones was at his best, it was a good decade run. Don't forget, I mean, he came up super young and was really good for a while. He hit 30 and dropped off a cliff. I mean, there were so many good pitchers in the game of baseball when we were growing up. Felix Hernandez might have been the best of them. The problem for Felix is that he's still kind of in that same grouping with your Kershaws, with your Verlanders, and those guys have better numbers and they did it for longer.
Yeah.
But at his peak, Felix Hernandez had an argument for the best pitcher in baseball. So I don't know if Felix Hernandez gets in. I'm semi-partial to the Mariners. I got family that are big Mariners fans, and I got nothing against Felix Hernandez. I'm less sold on Felix Hernandez getting in than I am Andy Pettitte eventually, though.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, there's important things with this comes from MajorLeagueBaseball.com. So Felix Hernandez got 20% of the vote, 20.6% to be specific. They compared it to Chase Utley in 2024 in terms of his ballot debut because but there seems like there's a pretty good shot here for Felix to get that 75% mark. But it's crazy because they even come out and admit it. It says this is a player who was one of the absolute best in baseball over a significant peak and became a beloved franchise icon, but is also someone who did not sustain it for long enough to collect the numbers typically associated with a Cooperstown-worthy resume. Didn't reach 200 career wins, didn't reach 3,000 strikeouts, and he had a 49.9 career WAR. And that's obviously not anywhere close to highly respectable. So it is kind of strange, but like does it feel more like maybe Felix Hernandez is an emotional selection? Are we getting that? Are we bringing emotion into this?
And I think we are, but I don't think
there's an area
off the table.
No, I think there's an area for
but you can't just vote for the guys you like, right? You have to balance that, and that's where being a Hall of Fame voter, some of it is absolutely personal, but you do have to be objective about it as well. But when you look objectively, Hernandez falls a little bit short. But then you look at the era and the context behind it, you make the argument then what he meant to that franchise. Husker brings up a good point as well. It's going to be curious to see how much of a boost some of the guys on this year's ballot get next year, because there's one Hall of Famer on next year's ballot as far as I see, and that's Cole Hamels. Some of the other options, Ryan Braun, Peds.
Yeah.
Alex Gordon would love it, but no, not going to happen. Shin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, Hunter Pence, Matt Kemp, Rick Porcello, Daniel Murphy, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, and Matt Wieters.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, just nothing sexy.
Not in the slightest. So I bet Pedroia gets a bump next year. I bet Utley gets a big bump next year. I think Jones and Beltran are pretty well in. Curious to see, like I said, about Andy Pettitte. But it's just always fascinating to see guys that vote for all 10 players that they're allowed. And then the guy that voted for Ichiro only voted for Chase Utley. That's the only guy on his ballot.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
What is with Andy Pettitte specifically? Because like he doesn't have a Cy Young, right? He was on some really good Yankees teams. He spent, most of his career, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons with the Astros that was wedged between long stints with the Yankees. Maybe you can check me on that. I think it was like 3 seasons with the Houston Astros that was wedged between 2 longer tenures with the Yankees. And if I remember correctly, doesn't have a Cy Young.
Correct.
He's over that 250 win mark, but it's like even Andy Pettitte, is that a guy that fell victim to just being on some really good teams, was really good. Like, I'm not discrediting his talent, but was on some really good Yankees teams with some really good pitchers as well.
I think what Andy Pettitte was the paragon of consistency, is that really good number 2 guy.
Yeah.
He was never the best pitcher on his team, but Jason,
that's where like CC had him beat a little bit.
Yeah. Jason Stark put out a really good column on Andy Pettitte specifically on The Athletic. I recommend people go find it. So that's what I'm trying to get to here. I mean, Pettitte's numbers are very similar to Sabathia's, just rounding errors away pretty much. A little bit better ERA plus, a little worse WAR for Pettitte compared to Sabathia. He was in the AL East, right? That division at that time: Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, Jays, even the Rays. Andy Pettitte never had a losing season. 18 seasons, never lost more games than he won. In Andy Pettitte's games that he started, his teams won 62.6% of the games. His teams won 61% of the time he pitched in a game, but when any other player in his team started, a 57.7% win percentage. So Pettitte elevated his teams there. And here's the thing, that when you talk about the emotions or the moments, the iconicism of a player like that, 381 postseason ERA is okay, but no one in history, according to Jason Stark's column, started more potential series clinching games than Andy Pettitte. He started 12 potential series clinching games and went 6-2 in those starts.
Yeah.
And they won 8 of those 12 games. Like, that's a postseason winner who maybe doesn't have a case for the best pitcher of his era or the best pitcher on his team, which has to count for something. But in October, when you need a win, he was Mr. Reliable.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking more thoughts about like Felix Hernandez and some other guys there. And I want to go back to the piece of what they mean to a franchise, because is it easier, and maybe this is a stupid question, is it easier to have that argument when it's a medium market team?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Because this is where I go looking forward. And for the Cubs, here's the thing. The Cubs are a big market team. They spend like they're a small market team, though. And it's so stupid, and it aggravates and it pisses off the fan base. And that's a whole other conversation for another time.
That we will have next.
But on top of that is, I look at a guy like Anthony Rizzo or other guys that follow the money. And because now conversations, let's say Anthony Rizzo wins another World Series this year, or whatever the case may be, he's going to have his conversation for maybe the Hall. And it's going to be, well, look what he meant to the Cubs. But is that now diminished because of his decision to go to the Yankees?
Right.
Or to at least stay with the Yankees? Because I think it can. I think it can. I think the more that time passes, it's easy for Mariners fans, and we're hearing from them on the text line, it's easy for Mariners fans to rally around Felix Hernandez, and rightfully so, because he meant so much to Seattle, and he was with Seattle for the entire career.
Yeah.
These guys, if Arenado stays with the Rockies, then sure, right?
Maybe.
It's easy to rally around those guys. But when you see him getting traded, and then you know what? He's going to go and follow the money, or a Rendon with Washington to then LA.
Yeah.
Like it's harder. I'm not saying all these guys are just automatically Hall of Fame inductees, but with those types of talents, is it Albert Pujols is probably the one that you still say, yeah, you know what? Despite moving on from team to team, and really it was on the Cardinals and the Angels, you still have that sense of look at what he meant to this franchise.
Well, you don't forget that Albert's best moments came as a Cardinal, and that's where I think his last season when he's back in St. Louis and has that resurgence, that helps. Because he was good for the Angels, he was good for the Dodgers, but Albert's a Cardinal. So you can add on what he did in Los Angeles to what he did in St. Louis. I think Arenado's in, but he's going to get dinged because he went to a winning organization and they tanked with him.
He's probably going to go to another one.
Probably going to another one.
The Cardinals still have yet to trade him. They were going to trade him. We were talking to this about this before the show. He was going to get traded to the Houston Astros, but then he blocked it. He blocked it with his no trade clause. And so I made a joke earlier, and there's rumors out there. Like the Dodgers are now a team that are in play for Nolan Arenado that we'll talk about in the next segment, because there's potential guys that they can dump salary with, like Tony Gonsolin and Chris Taylor for a guy like Nolan Arenado. So I just, baseball is in a weird spot right now, and the CBA is coming up in a couple of years, which I know we'll dive all into. So I'll hold off my thoughts.
That is exactly where we're going next. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball? Are we mad at the Dodgers? Or are we mad at other teams? And would you trade a Major League Baseball season for a new CBA? All ahead, an hour or two of On the Block, brought to you by NEPCO.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Oerman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
An hour ago, you didn't need a plumber. Now you're in a panic. When life throws you a surprise with a clogged drain, plugged or leaky toilet, broken pipe, leaky faucet or water heater, or a bathroom or kitchen plumbing upgrade, whatever. Just call Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Keep that number handy, 467-1111. Or go to BryantLincoln.com. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
Ever stare at the Hog Wild menu and feel like you just can't make up your mind because it all looks so good? Well, when I want a little bit of everything, I get a little bit of everything on Hog Wild Smokestack Sandwich. On a butter-toasted bun, we pile on our hickory smoked beef brisket and juicy hot links. The hard part is choosing between fresh curly fries, classic baked beans, or coleslaw on the side. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
Be sure to check out the top-selling Recomp. Recomp helps build lean muscle and strength while decreasing body fat. Recomp is ideal for men and women of all ages trying to look their best. Recomp can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Having diabetes doesn't have to ruin your new year. Join a Nebraska-supported program like Living Well with Diabetes. You'll learn how to manage your symptoms, feel more confident, and reduce stress about your diagnosis. Search Nebraska Living Well with Diabetes and click on the DHHS Healthy Living Programs page to learn more. Paid for by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they are committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perch-merch.com.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. actionlincoln.com.
This is On the Block with Strick and Austin. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Oerman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Presented by NEBCO. This is On the Block with Strick and Austin.
Welcome into On the Block. No Strick. He's out the rest of the week. Austin Oerman here, Nick Sehnert there, and then Ellie is on the board. We are doing the baseball show with a short basketball detour in segment one. Nick had a great segue for us here into Major League Baseball in hour number two. Big show always brought to you by our friends at NEBCO, hiring for constructors, their general laborers and mechanics, as well as CDL drivers for Ready Mixed Concrete. NEBCOinc.com, ConstructorsLincoln.com, or ReadyMixedConcrete.com to learn more. Nick, you brought up your Cubs. Big media market team, spending like a small market team, and this is where we get into the Dodgers conversation.
Yeah.
When you look at what the Dodgers are doing with over $1 billion in deferred money for some of their superstars and even some of their role guys, are you mad at what the Dodgers are doing, or are you mad that other teams like the Cubs potentially haven't taken advantage of the same opportunity to do it?
I look at it this way. As a fan of another team, I am mad that the Dodgers are doing it to the extent that they are doing it to, right? With the deferred money. It's over $1.2 billion. Essentially, speaking, closely relating to the Cubs, they took a closer away from Chicago that they were going to have, Tanner Scott. The Cubs actually offered him more money. They offered him 4 years, $72 million instead of 4 years, 66, I believe is what the Dodgers got. But we're essentially seeing the super teams of NBA basketball being played out, I feel like, in baseball with larger numbers and larger contracts because of the deferred money piece of it. I think when you look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, you can get mad because essentially they found a loophole. Like they found something that is legal, and it's frustrating because it's a big market team promising big dollar amounts to these players. The players love it because they're going to be in prime position to win a championship. And as we come off the heels of a Hall of Fame discussion, if you're a player like Mookie Betts, you need titles.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're a player or a pitcher, that you need titles. You need World Series championships. And so in this arms race of Major League Baseball, it allows these super teams to form when you have a franchise like the Dodgers willing to defer so much money. I mean,
well, and for the Dodgers, it makes sense. I mean, the Guggenheim partners that took over from the McCourts back in the day, I mean, like what, $270, $330 billion in other investments. But the more I read about this, the more it actually helps the team. Like they have to have that cash available to pay or set aside earmarked for it.
And that's an important piece.
But what it is essentially the team takes out a free loan from the players.
Yeah.
Like the players give the teams a free loan.
Yeah.
Is what it's doing. And essentially it's to your point of they would rather take their money spread out over a longer period of time, and money in the future is going to be worth less than money now because of how inflation works. They are willing to take what is in the long run, yes, a boatload of money, but less, total value if you look at just current present dollars to be a part of a championship organization. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That is how much winning a title means to some of these guys, that they see that the Dodgers are well run. They see that they're going to compete for not just the NL West, but the best team in all of baseball year in, year out. And they're willing to sacrifice some of their future earnings because of how much they trust the Dodgers organization to stockpile more talent and be competitive.
And a lot of these guys, when you're talking Shohei or you're talking Mookie or those types of elite level athletes in baseball, they are able to take less money than what their contracts are really valued at right now, knowing that, hey, my money's going to not be worth as much in 10 years as it will be right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's endorsements and there's other forms of financial compensation to where they're making plenty, or they're doing just fine. Where a guy like Juan Soto chooses, I don't want to defer my money. We're gonna just take it all, and his contract, when it's all said and done, is going to be valued more than Shohei Ohtani's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's very difficult, I think, for just the casual baseball fans to truly understand how that is.
Because it is so rare, to your point. And that's where I think the point of this being the Dodgers doing this is a huge mark in their credit and maybe against the rest of baseball, because the Dodgers, since the McCourts sold and this Guggenheim Partners group took over, has gotten super savvy, right? Feels kind of Chiefs-ish, like with what Brett Veach has done on the football side, just because of all these developmental trends that the Dodgers have been on top of, kind of like the Rays or the Guardians, except the Dodgers are actually willing to spend money on top of it, which that is why, Nick, if every team in baseball has had this available to them and not done it, I struggle to get too mad at the Dodgers when everyone else had the same chance to do it. Sure, the Dodgers can do it to a bigger, more grandiose degree. Trust me, I understand that. But every team in baseball had the chance to do this. I wonder just how much the Bobby Bonilla contract spooked teams away from doing it. Because if I'm a small market owner, right, I'm an unabashed Kansas City Royals fan, never been a financial behemoth. Really, when the Royals are competitive, they're in the top 20 in payroll, usually the top 15 or 16.
Short championship window,
right?
You're gonna you won't be able to re-sign everybody, and
right, But the Royals haven't done the deferred money thing, and of course, baseball doesn't love it because that's what sent the Diamondbacks into some turmoil in the early 2000s. But if done responsibly or with buttloads of cash like the Dodgers are doing, it can work. But if you're the Rays, right? Why don't you try to defer some money, right? Because your money's going to be less down the line than it is now. If you're the Guardians, you're worried about your TV contract. The Twins, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Not part of the issue is that you're not willing to do it. Number two is you haven't proven that you will invest in this year's team to begin with, so teams don't want to give you that benefit of the doubt, which is also where I can't fault the Dodgers for going all in.
Yeah.
We don't need less teams like the Dodgers spending cash around trying to sign players. We need more teams trying to sign players, more owners that want to be competitive and bring more money in.
That's a great point. And to build off of that, it's more so like franchises around Major League Baseball, and this is the case around every sport. So this, I mean, can be a conversation when we're talking. We can tailor it to the NFL, we can tailor it to NBA, we can tailor it to the Major League Baseball world. Franchises don't prove consistently enough that they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that they have true investment in the roster and the players. And at the end of the day, their goal, number one, first and foremost, above everyone else, is to win a championship. And while, yes, there are certainly guys and players across all professional sports that they chase the money. They chase the large contract, and especially guys that maybe are towards the back end of their career, and they're saying, hey, look, let me get one last payday before I get out of here. Yeah, sure. There's certain situations. But if this has proven anything, it's that guys want to win.
Mm-hmm.
That when you still get to the top 1% of 1%ers of elite athletes, their still main factor that drives them to do what they do on a baseball field or on a playing surface is to win titles.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where when you are like all those franchises you mentioned, or you throw the Cubs in there, or you throw the Royals in there, or whoever, this can be a nationwide conversation. Take the market out of it. Prove to, number one, your fan base, your roster, your players, free agents, coaches, managers, prove that you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, the Bobby Bonilla stuff might have scared some franchises, but that was 25 years ago?
Yeah, our lifetimes ago, essentially.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it's about risk reward, and there's just not enough investment, and it's laziness. That's what this ends up being. It's all about laziness. So I'm not mad at the Dodgers. As a fan of another team that is in the NL, yeah, I'm annoyed because they're getting everybody, and there's nothing. I mean, there is, but nobody else is doing anything to stop them.
That is if baseball teams were doing everything they could to sign some of these free agents, being competitive with them off the field, on the field, then I would say, okay, yeah, it's the fact that the Dodgers bring in more revenue than anyone in baseball, except, hey, guess what? That gets redistributed.
Yep.
Yes, the Dodgers have the best financial footing in Major League Baseball right now. League leading attendance basically every year since 2013 at a big stadium in a great location. You have the history, you have the tradition, all of that. Great TV contract that works out pretty well for them. But hey, guess what? Every dollar the Dodgers go over the luxury tax, that money goes in and gets spread out to the rest of Major League Baseball. So if these owners are going to complain about what the Dodgers are doing, guess what? They're making you money by them spending to win. If you're not going to put in that same level of consistent, even if you don't win, right? Only one team out of 30 wins the World Series every year. We get that. It's easier for us to spend money, other people's money than it is our own money, right? I don't want to speak for you, but I'm not asking John Sherman to light money on fire just to spite the Dodgers.
No.
Right? I'm good with fine investments and trying to make good business sense. And I'm not saying the Royals haven't been competitive. It's not the best example right now, but like Nutting or the Orioles group or Angelos with the Angels, teams like that.
I mean, you could throw the Cubs. I mean, that's
sure. Talk about the Cubs then, yeah.
Without me being biased. I mean, here's the thing. From this is me taking off my Cubs fandom hat and putting on just an overseer of Major League Baseball. The Cubs are the perfect example to where they struggle to make commitments to players that frankly earn them money in the long run. We talk about jersey sales. We talk about revenue, reasons to bring fans out to the ballpark. The Cubs are a big market team, but they act like they're a small to medium market franchise. And that's just, it's mind boggling that sure, there's some seasons and years and a span of a couple of seasons maybe where you need to just take a moment and kind of reassess expectations, salaries, budgets, contracts, everything that goes into running an organization. Sure. But if you have the right people in place, it's easy to do so, and it's easier to turn around quicker than ever, especially nowadays, because there are so many creative ways to basically circumvent the salary, not a salary cap, obviously in baseball, but to do essentially what the Dodgers are doing. The perfect example from the Chicago Cubs is, number one, that the fact that it's not like they're paying pennies on the dollar. It's not as simple for me as a Cubs fan or anybody to just go to their organization and say, dude, just pay him more, offer him more. Because you don't want to get into this situation to where you're paying,
an extra year and an extra $5 million per year, something like
Tanner
that.
Scott, you don't want to get him where the offer of 4 years, $72 million is a pretty respectable offer, but you don't want to get to this point to where you have to offer a 5-year, $95 million deal.
Well, it's a bad team tax.
Yeah, for a closer.
It's a real thing.
That's not necessarily worth that. There is something like you just said to be with the bad team tax, and that's across all sports. But on top of that is another example is Kyle Tucker. You go out and you trade 2 really talented prospects for Kyle Tucker, who statistically over the last 5 years in some pretty major batting categories, he has had a better 5 years than Juan Soto. You're getting him for a fraction on the dollar of a dollar, and you are hesitant to sign him, and you're willing to go into arbitration over a $2 million discrepancy.
$2 million for a top 10 player in baseball.
For a top 10 player in baseball and for a big market team. That is, it might be about money.
But that's not the Dodgers' fault.
But that's not the Dodgers' fault. And number 2, that sends a message, a crippling message across all of baseball to fans, to free agents, to other guys, to saying, look, you know what? They are so concerned about $2 million that they won't sign a top 10 player in baseball that's going to drive fans to the ballpark, that's going to drive jersey sales. In a time where the Cubs are bad right now, they don't have pitching.
Well, they're mid.
They're mid. Okay, the Cubs are mid. They don't have very good pitching. And then on top of that is you're coming off of an era to where you are moving on from some of your most favorited players in franchise history for fans. You're moving on from Anthony Rizzo. You moved on from a rookie of the year in Chris Bryant. You moved on from multiple starting pitchers. After you just rejuvenized the fan base with a World Series, you choose and elect to allow such a small figure in this world of millions and millions of dollars contracts. You allow such a small figure to derail and send negative shockwaves across the sport, all indicating that you have no clue how to run a franchise.
USC basketball right outside our window here. Welcome to Town Trojans.
FaceTime.
No, I do think that's completely accurate, because let's take the Cubs championship team 1 year after the Royals championship team. Probably smart of them not to have Javi Baez on the roster still.
It is.
Probably smart of them not to have Anthony Rizzo on the roster now. Even Chris Bryant, right? Who knows what his career plays out as if he's playing in Wrigley versus at Coors Field right now. So there are 2 failures there. Number 1, maybe not keeping Chris Bryant, a costly figure, but he's still better. I would take him over the other 2 guys in terms of talent level right now. And then the failure to either go out and draft the replacements, which is a front office identification and system developmental failure, or, hey, guess what? The farm system's not cutting it. We're the Chicago Cubs in an entirely winnable division. Not go out and be more competitive for some key free agents at some key spots. Right? Again, not really the Dodgers' fault. It's kind of on the Cubs to do this. One more thing before we'll take a break, and this will help set the scene for the next conversation here. Royals Review tweeted a screenshot of something from a guy, Mark Normandin, who writes some about labor relations nationwide, but especially for baseball. He says, the way the Dodgers are spending is also very much reinforcing the idea that their ownership and that of the Mets believes the next CBA is going to end up costing them even more in revenue sharing due to broadcasting changes, so they might as well just go all in now.
And on top of that, I mean, with that, right, is whether you're the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, I mean, those are the 3 big ones. Nobody can say, like, as a fan, especially in the offseason, when you're trying to rejuvenize and get ready for the year, if I was a fan of either one of those 3 organizations, there's no possible way that I could sit here and say, well, our guys just aren't trying. They're not signing guys. They're not trying to position, the team for a championship. No way. You can't. You can't. And there's something about resilience that you have to respect to a certain degree, because the Mets have done this year after year, and they've experimented year after year, and yet they still continue to try.
The Padres.
And that's
the Padres.
Yeah.
Think about them. All the trades they make, shelling out their farm system, dragging these top guys. Just hasn't worked for them.
It hasn't worked.
Philly.
But it will eventually. And when it does, you'll say, man, I'm glad we didn't give up hope.
Mm-hmm.
What you're telling baseball, what you're telling your fans when you do, essentially when the Cubs are in this, I mean, you can talk about like the Orioles potentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you've set yourself up to become so close, but then you don't want to do what's necessary to take it over the top. Prospects, and here's what I've learned. I used to get caught up in prospects. I used to get so caught up in, this dude's the number 2 prospect in Major League Baseball. This guy, the Cubs had to trade their number 9 prospect in their top 50. I used to get so caught up in that, and I'm finding myself changing and shifting a little bit, because prospects come and go. And if you do your job as a front office to identify replacements, and especially now for what we've seen the Dodgers do, especially as a fan of a larger market team, there is no excuse as to why you should be on the sidelines for more than 3 years, for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
There is no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so that shifts and changes a little bit when you bring in smaller market teams like the Royals, because you need to identify some of those younger guys, those prospects that find the role play and mentality that can just come out and get some of those dirty middle gritty innings. And nobody else really wants to do it, because you're not going to go out and pay a dude $50 million to just do that.
And even these small market teams could be much more active in free agency if they wanted to be.
Yeah.
But they've gotten away with the same excuses for so long.
We're
We
a
just
small
kind
market
of
team.
We can't do that. We're not sure about it. We prefer to promote and draft well. So
But
every
expectations
team,
are different.
They are wildly, and that's completely fair. Let's go to break. When we get back, would a salary cap solve it? Would you trade a missed season in MLB, cut out the 2027 season to get a salary cap in baseball? Let's keep this conversation going in just a sec.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays. Games of bowling, shoe rental, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Be sure to check out the top-selling Recomp. Recomp helps build lean muscle and strength while decreasing body fat. Recomp is ideal for men and women of all ages trying to look their best. Recomp can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes All you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100 and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Davis Plumbing has been in business for over 15 years and is currently searching for journeyman plumbers to join their team. Experience is preferred, but not required for all applicants. When you join the team at Davis Plumbing, you'll receive full benefits package with paid time off. Join a small local business doing big things in Lincoln and surrounding areas. Apply today by calling 402-525-6922 or find them on social media. Davis Plumbing, locally owned and operated for over 15 years.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
What's going on, fans? This is Lexi Rodriguez, four-time All-American at Nebraska and now proud member of Omaha's newest professional team, Love Omaha Volleyball. League One Volleyball is bringing the heat this year. Don't miss your chance to see Olympians, national players, and national champions right here in Omaha from now through April. We can't wait to see you cheering us on in the stands. Visit lovboma.com to buy single match tickets to see me and Love Omaha Volleyball in action this season. Go Big Green!
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a slight chance of snow showers throughout the day. Otherwise, mostly cloudy and breezy to the high near 38. Tonight, a slight chance of snow early. Otherwise, partly cloudy with the low near 11. And tomorrow, we'll see mostly sunny skies and a light breeze. High near 26. The meteorologist out at 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here during On the Block. Austin Norman, Nick Sehnert, and you talking baseball all show long. We're on Major League Baseball. Before we get to the question of would you take a salary cap in Major League Baseball if it meant sitting out, say, the 2027 MLB season? Nick, fellow Cubs fan, Cubsker on the text line. He forgot to ask your thoughts on the new alternate powder blues for the Cubs. What do you think?
I like them. I feel like they tried to do too much at times with it.
Better or worse than Wrigleyville?
Better, just because I like the powder blue. I like the powder blue a lot. I do like the numbers on the chest. You know what? I take that back. Keep the logo how it is on the new alternate jerseys. Take away the numbers on the front side of the jerseys. Just leave that right side of the chest empty. And I think you got an A+ alternate jersey. I think on the front, it looks a little too busy with both the numbers on the right side. And then on the left side, it's the Cubs logo, with the big old fashioned C and, stuff like that. So I would say if I were to design it, I would say take away the numbers on the front, keep them on. You can put them on like the side or even on, obviously the back. You can put them on the side, the sleeve or something, but take it off the front side of the jersey, keep the logo where it is, and I think you have an A+. I love the powder blue.
Fair enough. Royals have gone to powder blues. I don't love the all powder blue look, but I'm also probably just a hater, modern day kid who misses they missed out on the glory days of the Kansas City Royals, such as they were. Next question, though, when we get to major.
Speaking of great powder blues, how about the Omaha Storm Chasers?
How about that? International League champs.
That's right. Don't
Omaha
forget,
Storm Chasers.
under new ownership this year, so we'll see. Number one, if I make my return. Number two, if updates come to Warner Park. That's something to watch also.
Hello, eyes emoji. Nick, would you
got that, Ellie?
Would you trade the 2027 Major League Baseball season for a salary cap?
No. I don't think so. I think there's ways, like, sure. Would it hypothetically level the playing field? Maybe.
What's more important, a salary cap or floor?
Floor. I would 100%. I would lean floor every single time. I would say that when you're talking about salary caps in baseball, it's a good thing we started talking last segment about what we talked about, essentially, because if you don't run the franchise the correct way, or that if I'm Kyle Tucker or a top 20 player in baseball, I'm going to look at something and go, they still, even though they have all this cap room and they're willing to pay me, I still don't have confidence in their ability to run an organization. And nothing changes. So then essentially it's going to be guys that take less money to still join championship teams. And theoretically, the Dodgers would still run the league, or the Yankees would still run the league, or whoever you want to insert big market team here that's okay spending money.
When we look at the highest payrolls in baseball for last year, it was the Mets, it was the Yankees, the Astros, and the Phillies before you get to the Dodgers at number 5. Then rounding out the top 10, Atlanta, Chicago, Texas, Toronto, and San Francisco. I keep hearing all this about a salary cap, and I'm sure it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the cure-all. No. I really don't think it's the cure-all, because we've seen teams learn how to, navigate the salary cap in the NBA with all these trades and getting creative. You've seen them learn how to negotiate it with bonuses and, reallocation of money in the NFL. And guess what? We've had longer dynasties in those sports when it comes to championships than we have in Major League Baseball. Plain and simple, we have. I mean, I just don't think a salary cap does everything it's intended to. And I have heard some pushback on a salary floor as well. This is just kind of generally, it's the players that dislike the salary floor more than the owners. They say it limits their earning potential because it prevents some top players from getting the highest possible salaries according to the market. As teams have to spend a certain amount. It can actually hurt smaller market players because a less talented player on a lower spending team could end up making more money just to get a team up to that minimum. And again, it doesn't defeat the purpose of free agency, but it sets just kind of a weird precedent where you're getting what the rules say you have to get, or your team is maybe offering you more than they want to or less than they would want to because of an artificial rule, not because that's what the market has said you're worth. And that's why I do appreciate Major League Baseball in the way it is without a salary cap.
Yeah.
Right. I understand why people would want it. I'm not so anti-salary cap, but good on the Dodgers for playing in the market they play in. Good on the Yankees and Mets for splashing around cash. Even Philadelphia, right? That's a big city, but not the first one that comes to mind. They're spending. It still gives leeway for a team like Atlanta, right? Really big city, really big market, doesn't necessarily spend like it. Atlanta did a lot of that, their recent run, organically. Really good drafting, augmenting with free agents here or there. And that's another thing we get into here too, Nick. In other teams, quote unquote, letting the Dodgers get away with this. Not saying the Braves were wrong to do it, but they let Freddie Freeman walk.
Yeah.
The Red Sox made a really crappy decision in trading away Mookie Betts instead of trying to trade or build around him. The Rays could have re-signed Tyler Glasnow to an extension. All sorts of little decisions like that. Other teams had these really good players on their team and chose not to re-sign them. So the Dodgers basically just said, thank you very much. We'll take them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think when you look at baseball, now granted, like the Braves last year, they signed a couple of guys in free agency. Freddie Freeman letting him walk, like that goes back to all the way back to our Hall of Fame discussion where he talked about what guys mean to franchises. He's in the Anthony Rizzo to the Cubs, Felix Hernandez to the Mariners type of discussion where you keep him on and maybe you pay him a little bit over market just because of how much he means to your organization and in the clubhouse, especially. Now, on top of that, I think when you look at baseball and you ask the question of do you want to see a salary cap or do you want to see a salary floor? I think more importantly, there's other rules that need to come first. Like there's other pieces that I think Rob Manfred, as the commissioner, needs to address and really figure out a long-term solution for each year. And it's good to tweak the game. Like I'm not saying, I'm not trying to get out here and be like, yeah, you know what? They need to stop changing rules every year. They need to stop worrying about pitch clock, and they need to stop worrying about mound visits and so on and so forth. That's not what I'm getting at. I think everything they do now, they have a great opportunity to find and learn the sustainability of rules. They have great opportunity to get data and data on certain rules and how players and coaches and fans react to those rules with the minor league systems. They have it's so fortunate, and it's an opportunity that other sports don't have, to where the NFL can't test out rules in lower in lower level. You can't. There's no lower NFL. There's no NFL Europe where you can go out and say, hey, we're going to try this rule, because that's what happens when, and instead you look like an idiot and you're stuck with a rule for an entire year saying, yeah, coaches can now challenge pass interference, calls.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is stupid. But
it's a knee-jerk reaction
yes.
to an issue. And yes, we understand that the refs can be bad, but did it really solve anything?
No.
Not even close. Just make you feel good in the moment that you did something.
Baseball has an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to try this out at the AAA level, and then we're going to see if we want to institute this into the major league level. But guess what? If it sucks, or if it is not, reacted well to, then you know what? We move separate directions and we try to figure out something else. They have this opportunity to where they can find sustainable changes, and they can provide stability in the rule book. But yet, year after year, Major League Baseball is changing batters faced, or they're changing the pitch clock and when it gets reset and when it doesn't get reset, or they're changing mound visits. And like, for example, in 2024, now each team was going to be allowed 4 mound visits instead of 5. Like you're so concerned about pace of play, which I think is important, because we've seen the numbers, we've seen the stats that viewership is actually up over the last couple of seasons as they've worked to reduce the game time average. Find something that's sustainable and stick with it for longer than one season. Like I think baseball is starving for consistency. And while you're a sport that is not going to have a salary cap, I think that they'll continue to not have a salary cap. While the contracts are always going to be fluid, and they're going to range from some astronomically high numbers to some low numbers as well. Figure out a lane where you can be consistent in. That's rule book, that's umpiring, and that's the way you manage the game. Figure out some consistency pieces, and you're going to be able to draw more consistent crowds. When people know what's going on, they will cheer and they will learn. But as soon as you keep on changing the rules, it's harder to follow, and it's harder to get somebody. Most of the time, it's an older person as well, which baseball attracts a more elderly crowd at times. But you can say, look, my 65-year-old dad, not me specifically, but a 65-year-old father, he'll learn the rules once, maybe twice. But if you keep changing stuff where the little details of those guys that they just want to go sit and watch a ball game and actually know what's going on, it might be more difficult to get them to say, yeah, hey, so this has changed, this has changed, this has changed. There's been some more changes. You got to figure it out. It's tough to follow at times.
And I think when you look at baseball, whether you're talking the rules on the field or off the field, I would say this for most sports leagues, but the best rule changes are the ones that give more teams the ability to do something instead of limiting a few teams from their loopholes, right? Think about just the framing of the issue. Would it be better for baseball to make a rule that reins in the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees from spending so much? Or should Major League Baseball create rules that incentivizes other owners to spend and to be more competitive, right? Just about the framing of it. Because if you make a rule that says, oh, the Dodgers and the Mets are spending too much, we don't like it, we're going to rein them in, that's negative, that's whiny, and that's not a good look for a game that has some positive momentum. And that's where staring down the barrel of potential, labor issue, if not a full-on stoppage or strike, is really scary and should be really scary for Rob Manfred and the owners, because maybe baseball is not the most popular. In fact, very clearly it's not the most popular sport in America right now, but you have positive momentum. You do. I mean, the rule changes with the stolen bases has worked. The pitch clock has absolutely worked. Not saying it's in a perfect spot, but baseball has done some really good things recently. Now is not the time to run headfirst into the brick wall of labor strife.
And it's strange before we get to break. I mean, to take it a step further is if Major League Baseball were to basically punish the Dodgers or make rules to where the Dodgers couldn't do what they do, then you're almost saying, teams, we want you to be competitive, but don't be too competitive. Don't try to do too much to where you're not keeping the playing field level. No, you know how you do that is you incentivize, like you said, the other 28 organizations that aren't spending or aren't really investing in their roster, or if they aren't right now, saying, well, guess what? You're either going to get left in the dust or you have to step up. When you do that, then you're making 29 out of the 30 teams competitive, not just 2 out of the 30 teams competitive.
You can't engineer parity.
No.
You can try, but you can't make a league where everyone goes 500. Right. We shouldn't want that. Stricky's gone, so I'm going to be the one to get slightly political here, not over the top or anything, but we need more business owners, which is what these guys are, right? They didn't make their money in baseball. It's a side project for them. How did they make their money, or their families make their money? By being innovative, by being creative, not by looking to the league or the government for a handout to get everyone back even. They took a look at their equivalent of the Dodgers and said, look what they did. What can we copy from them? But we have an advantage over them somewhere. How hard are we going to work to find it? How much are we going to invest in the long term as well, right? Try to be competitive in the here and now, but how do we build something not to tear them down? I mean, ideally, that's a part of it, with competition, right? Bring people even, but a rising tide lifts all boats. How do we get more competitive with them? How do we reach their level instead of how do we drag them down to ours?
Yeah.
Right. You think about baseball as America's pastime, the system that has worked for America economically is that when people get competitive, when they invest, not when they look to someone else for a handout or give up after a few years because the playing field's unfair.
Maybe what we need to talk about in this spillover to kind of just wrap everything up, shortened season. Because I want to get your thoughts on a shortened season. I was thinking about this, and I didn't even tell you I was doing this. I kind of proposed my own, shortened season. This is what it would look like. Hypothetical dates of when you start, potential times of when you finish. Why is this a good thing? Maybe why is this a bad thing? I want to get your thoughts. I want to get the texters' thoughts. 402-464-5685, Austin. As long as you're done with this conversation specifically, because I know we're getting pushback on the text line about shortened season. They need to play fewer games. And I agree to that to an extent, but I want to have the open conversation.
Let's go to break. Let's wrap up on the block with that after this.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Oerman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100, and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Davis Plumbing has been in business for over 15 years and is currently searching for journeyman plumbers to join their team. Experience is preferred, but not required for all applicants. When you join the team at Davis Plumbing, you'll receive full benefits package with paid time off. Join a small local business doing big things in Lincoln and surrounding areas. Apply today by calling 402-525-6922 or find them on social media. Davis Plumbing, locally owned and operated for over 15 years.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solutions offers fleet services, as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2024 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln. Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even a new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a slight chance of snow showers throughout the day. Otherwise, mostly cloudy and breezy in the high near 38. Tonight, a slight chance of snow early. Otherwise, partly cloudy with the low near 11. And tomorrow, we'll see mostly sunny skies and a light breeze. High near 26. The meteorologist Kyle at 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Jay Foreman running a little bit behind. That is all right. We will carry. Austin Oerman, Nick Sehnert, Ellie with you here during On the Block. This would be the crossover sponsored by League One Volleyball. Omaha has its first home match in 2 days. Friday, January 24th at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena in Ralston. Get your tickets online, lovboma.com. You can see former Huskers Jordan Larson, Justine Wong-Arantes, Medi Kubik, Lauren Stivrins, and Lexi Rodriguez in action. All right, Nick. Set up that question, shortened MLB season. Where are you going with it? What are you thinking?
So this is not necessarily something I'm a fan of, okay? I want to make that very clear. I'll preface it with this. I am a baseball, what they would call, I guess, a purist. I enjoy the 1-0 ball game. I enjoy the
typical catcher.
Right. I enjoy the sitting there on a random Thursday night and watching a pitcher's duel. I also like the manufacturing of runs. I'm fine with home runs, but I like watching teams, like the strategy of baseball play out in front of my own eyes. So let me preface that. I just wanted to say all that before I get to this part. We live in a day where home runs, velocity, they drive the game of baseball, especially the velocity piece. Pitchers, we're seeing it time and time again, are consistently getting hurt bad. And you can't just chalk it up to they're not taking care of their arms because we live in a day and age where medicine has advanced dramatically since the early 2000s.
And pitchers are making buku bucks.
Yeah,
so they are very
more.
much incentivized to take care of their arms.
To take care of their arms. And you mentioned Tyler Glasnow a couple minutes ago. And then I want to throw in Blake Snell as one of these as well, because Blake Snell opted out of the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
These are guys that have been public about, look, why would I put this wear and tear on my body that's going to hurt me down the road if I'm not going to get a financial compensation out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something that they're worth in their eyes. So this is where I wanted to say it. If you went down in games from like 162 to like 140, We can still keep it that amount. You start second week of April. You could start essentially on like Jackie Robinson Day, and you could keep the same spectacle of where everyone wears number 42. It's opening day. It's opening night. Everyone wears 42 to honor Jackie Robinson. You don't get rid of that, obviously, but that'd be a pretty cool sight to see in game one of a season, I think, specifically. On top of that, you could end it to where you don't have to compete with football so much when it's all said and done. Let's be honest. Me and Austin will be as big of baseball fans as we are. We are well aware and not afraid to admit that baseball is not the most popular sport. It's never going to compete with football. And if it tries to compete with football, it's going to lose 10 out of 10 times. That's just that's the honest truth of it. And that's something we can accept. We're fine with that. But there's not, we say that to say that there's no reason why you shouldn't try to make it work. And there's ways that you can make it work, and maybe that's a shorter season. You end the regular season around Labor Day. Baseball is a summer sport. It feels like, okay, you know what? Labor Day is officially kind of the end of summer, it feels like, for a lot of people. When you live out west in California, that's when you start school. So like there's pieces like that. Teams operate. This is another thing with attendance. We mentioned the Dodgers. They get about 43,000 fans a game, which is insane to think about. I want to say, I believe it's 43,000 because it's a big stadium, big market, right? But there's a few teams, the Dodgers, maybe the Yankees, maybe the Mets, that get those types of numbers consistently. The other 75, 85% of the league does not.
And for reference, 43,000 fits right between UCF and UConn in college football.
Thank you. But that's consistent for those guys. On top of that, though, is the other 85% of ballparks operate with 2/3 attendance, maybe 2/3 of an attendance. And that drops significantly. And this is why I brought when you start school and when you end school into this conversation, because 2/3 of your games are on school nights. And it's hard to get families out to the ballpark when it's in 7:30 or 7 o'clock first pitch. The games get done at 9:30. Parking is atrocious. Traffic is disgusting. And you don't get home until 11:30 at night. It's hard to consistently ask fans and families to get out to the ballpark. So if you truly operate from the summer to summer, families aren't going to postseason games.
Not nearly as much.
Those are big ticket prices. Those are for corporate people. Those are for adults that are willing to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on tickets.
And that has its own effect on the game.
It certainly does.
You know, I think we would both agree that it would be great to have more families at these games, but life gets in the way.
Yeah, exactly. But on top of all of that, that's the revenue piece. You're operating on 2/3 of a full ballpark. Maybe you're not having to compete with other professional sports as much. You're going to maybe have some crossover with football for the World Series, but that's fine. You're playing your most meaningful baseball games when the football season is just starting. There's no avoiding that potentially. But most of all, when you talk about Major League Baseball, the front office's relationship with the players, that's over 300 fewer innings that are on a pitcher's arm, that are on guys just normal wear and tear, that's on the lineup, that's on the staff. Like, you're talking about, you'd be able to pay some players some probably less. You'd be able to hopefully drive the number of injuries, significant injuries, down.
Especially from pitchers.
And like I said, when it comes to money, these owners of big market teams that want to act like they're small market stingy operators, it's going to help them maybe open up the pocketbooks just a little bit, knowing that, okay, we need to fund this for 3 fewer months compared to 9 months out of the year.
Right. And then if that were to happen, obviously ticket prices per game would go up.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, Major League Baseball does still have the cheapest tickets across sports, because you get 81 opportunities right now to see your team, as opposed to 41 in the NBA or 8 or 9 if you're an NFL team.
And essentially this would drop it. Sorry to interrupt. This would drop it to like 65-ish. I mean, 65 would put it at a 130 game season. If you wanted to go 140 game season, you could say 70-ish. So it would increase marginally, I think.
Yeah. And Vern on the text line here, Starter Heyman Jewelers text line, says, shut your faces about a shortened season. 162 is the season, always has been, always will be.
You're right.
Except that baseball went from 143 to 154 And it's been 162 since the early 60s. So it's one of those things when you talk about it, it's a suggestion that I don't love at first because I love just the rhythm, the routine of baseball.
Absolutely.
One, maybe
I
2 off
enjoy
days
starting in
a
March.
week. Oh, absolutely.
Like I'm pumped. Like I'm excited for spring training next month.
Yes, next month.
Yeah.
Like it's freaking awesome. But I do think you raise a fantastic point for these owners. If they're able to make more on a per game basis, they can save on some operating costs up front and then on the back end of the season as well. And if baseball has like that specific window, right? If your first game comes, I don't know, Tuesday after, the national championship game in college basketball, for example, or you start that on Sunday on the off day, take Monday off because they like to give teams day on, day off, and then really get going with the season, something like that, then what baseball would have to do is not just stop there, but instead of just Monday night baseball, we need Friday night baseball too.
Yeah.
Right? Sunday, Monday, Friday baseball. Could you try to set it up for MLB? Not nearly the same as college because you have 5-man rotation instead of 3, but baseball needs to do a better job of keeping these big starters healthy, marketing these marquee pitching matchups. Could you have your designated Friday guy? It's harder in Major League Baseball with more games and more travel, but how do you make more games an event in a shortened season? That would be the next step for baseball in the marketing aspect.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I don't know how with baseball, I mean, when we bring like college football into this, we always talk and reference corporate money, like with TV deals. Yeah, they're always going to want more college football games. I think baseball's a little different.
I do too.
In the way that when you're talking about 144, like 162 going down to 144, I think once again, if you're operating with this is how we're going to trademark our league as the league of summer, when the rest of the sports world is somewhat dead. Kids are out of school. You're able to go outside. The weather 99% of the time is where you can go outside and hang out. Like if you clearly label it as that, then great. I think that there's an avenue there to where it's more successful. However, on top of that, it's one of those things where if we're playing in Kansas City in March, it's going to be a little chilly. Maybe if you wait till April, it drives that incentive for fans to come out to the ballpark.
I think there's definitely some of that, and there's no reason the NFL OTAs should be more popular than baseball.
No.
They shouldn't get more run on ESPN than the Major League Baseball game or conversation about it.
And maybe there's something to be said about if there's a shortened, like once again, that's why I wanted to preface with I like 162. But if there's something to be with a shortened season, maybe you create a requirement where starting pitchers are supposed to go, are needed to go, or required to go 6 innings.
Or fewer pitchers on the roster.
Bingo.
Something like that.
There's ways you can do it to where it helps pitchers hopefully alleviate some injuries, but then on top of that, still perform at their highest level.
We got to get out of here. Big thanks to Nebco for their sponsorship of the show. Nick will be back in with me tomorrow. But for now, we're on to Old School, brought to you by the Mercado in just a sec. Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com. Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
Located at 14th and Yankee Hill is Lincoln's premier physical therapy and recovery lab. The Body Lab offers trigger point dry needling, cupping therapy, joint manipulation, and so much more. Looking to relax and relieve stress after a long day or difficult workout? The Body Lab's recovery lab is the ideal spot. Featuring infrared sauna, a cold plunge tub, or if you're just looking for